JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Part 7 Steel Ball Run is one of the best pieces of fiction I have ever had the pleasure of reading. After all of that praise, it only comes to a common sense that this part deserves a lot of respect, and yes, it has a very high critical feedback to back it up and is considered by all fans one, if not the best part of JoJo. Besides that, none of the videos that I saw on YouTube were doing justice to Part 7, so here I am talking about my favorite part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Part 7 Steel Ball Run. Steel Ball Run, after getting known as the 7th part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and a continuation of JoJo, was a reset of the universe itself. JoJo Part 7 is simply different from everything we have seen before it. Most of the characters, not if all of the characters in Part 7, in a way or another, are a reference or an alternate version of the main characters. For example, Johnny Joestar is the JoJo Part 7 is Jonathan Joestar, who is the JoJo Part 1, and like this you get the overall idea. Part 7 is an open journey. In fact, it's a race, the famous Steel Ball Run race from San Diego to New York. The prize is $50 million. Also is the part of JoJo that changed JoJo's Bizarre Adventure from the weekly Shonen Jump to monthly Ultra Jump, aka from Shonen to Seinen. But what is really that good about Steel Ball Run? What makes Steel Ball Run so good? Let's talk on what really makes Steel Ball Run a masterpiece. Araki is known for his art. Starting from early parts, he has progressed so much to a point where in Part 4 and Part 5 and onwards, his art has hit a new high. But Part 7 is quite different to that. Araki might evolve his talent into early parts, like for example his talent was really shown in Part 4, Part 5 and Part 6 specifically, but the art on Part 7 is into different levels. In JoJo changed from Shonen to Seinen, so aka to monthly Ultra Jump Seinen magazine. Araki had a month time per chapter instead of week per chapter, so more time for Araki means creating some of the best stuff ever. The detail is so much more in depth than the previous parts and character designs are just on point. It has some of the best covers for mangas ever and some of the best stuff to ever come out of the manga world in terms of art alone. Also, it holds my personal favorite design of a character in all of manga history, and that is the famous design of Gyro Zeppeli, which is arguably the best in JoJo and for sure one of the best, if not the best, in all of manga. Part 7 in overall, the story of it functions in a way that is a wildly different retelling of the first parts of JoJo, and we can see that pretty much that everything that referenced Part 1 as itself is basically Part 1, just a better Part 1, but it's still so different, and it's not just a remake, but it's completely different, that goes in different terms, like for example the Joestar and Brando rivalry, the Zeppeli family and stuff like that are completely different from the first parts of JoJo. In Part 7 they are just different stuff. Araki believes when we go to the end of something, then it basically restarts from the first fundamental parts of the story itself. That is why Steel Ball Run works to the fundamental levels as well, because it starts an already ended story. The concept of Steel Ball Run, like many other parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series, is of simple and straightforward, yet manages to go far beyond the limits on in-depth and development of such simple story. Essentially, the story is about a cross-continental horse race across America with a price of $50 million. Like I explained before, but this simple race takes such turns into something that was never meant to be when they first joined the race. The first chapters of Part 7 are some of the best introductions to character I have ever seen, and the way the race gets explained is just like amazing. But after that it continues slow in a bit and it isn't really really bad thing in this case, because the creator is getting used to this setting, and it's just amazing to see how it gets faster as it progresses from chapter 20 and especially from chapter 25 plus it basically until it ends. To be honest, it has some of the best storytelling characters in manga history. With all of that, what happens to the story and the characters fits so well together is just incredible. Then at the end of each arc we have a little time for Gyro and Johnny to get themselves up again and all motivated to the next one, and this thing goes on for a while, but each of them, when it comes to story and character development, part 7 is the best of the best. Steel Ball Run has some of the greatest battles, aka fights within JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. Each stand is unique and interesting, and each action has a psychological element to it. The final two conflicts in Steel Ball Run are in a different level from everything, both serving up to wrap up the two significant plots of the story, attempting to become the victor of the Steel Ball Run race and preventing the other dark side of the true meanings of part 7's race to succeed. The plot twist at the end of part 7 is something completely different from any plot twist that JoJo had so far, and the ending itself is the most emotional ending I have ever read in a manga or fiction. Part 7's ending is my favorite ending in fiction, and everything about it makes sense and is strong symbolism to early parts of JoJo. This is the strongest aspect about Steel Ball Run easily. Steel Ball Run possesses one of the best cast of characters I have ever seen, starting from the main characters Gyro and Johnny. Gyro Zeppeli, as many of you know, is my favorite character on the entirety of JoJo. Gyro is one of the best written characters ever, and I will say that he is one of the easiest characters to sympathize with. A character who holds so much layers into himself as Gyro, from the backstory wise, and still manage to be so funny, badass, and to have a heart of a lion, yet he won't kill people for fun or for any reason. He couldn't even bring himself to kill people. Is a character that is amazingly written as Gyro Zeppeli. Johnny Joestar is what I consider to be a shown up embodiment of JoJo, and the best written JoJo in overall. To have someone start from that kind of high class of life and have those things that he made him an arrogant asshole, and that selfishness to himself, and one simple bad day making him nothing, and yet him fighting to become something that he was from nothing that he became, is what Johnny Joestar is. Johnny is considered to be the most selfish character in JoJo, and throughout of Steel Ball Run with Gyro in his side, he turns into someone who is fearless to his goal yet human to himself. Johnny as a character has so many deep layers as well. Some of my favorite moments from all of JoJo come from the interaction that Johnny Joestar and Gyro Zeppeli have with each other. When they lost everything, they took a deep moment. That single moment that they stared themselves in the eyes and they were drinking something out of the bottle together when they lost everything is what makes them one of the best characters I have ever seen. Then it is worth to say that every single minor villain in this part and every single racer, no matter if they turn to be good, neutral or bad, they have motivations, backstories from themselves that makes them one of the best written characters in JoJo, especially the fan favorite minor villain Ringo Rodagan.
Welcome to the true man's world.
His character is just amazing, where the battles of stands goes to a deep psychological battle that is the main thing for Gyro's character in the True Man's World arc. That is some of the best arcs of all time. Gyro, Johnny, Valentine, Diego and Lucy Steele are the main characters of part 7, and it is fair to say that each of them have deep layers on them. Funny Valentine is the main villain of part 7, and him being the president of the United States is one thing, but him being such a relatable character, not in terms of his actions but in terms of the overall goal for the better future of his country, a true patriot, that is another thing about him. He is arguably the best written villain in JoJo with Yoshigaki Kira, and he is what you call a patriot of his country, for his people, and one point his character who makes you wonder what is right and what is wrong, since you question yourself for deciding to side with one side. For the country and the people, Valentine winning arc is the best, then Johnny comes into that point where he himself, Johnny Joestar, questions himself as well. Also, what defines Funny Valentine as a villain is his powers, aka his stand, dirty deeds done dirt cheap, D4C. Without spoiling, his entire stand is one of the strongest stance powers in all of JoJo, most creative stuff in manga ever, I will say, and my favorite stand for myself. A character like Valentine will always be one of my favorite because he is so goddamn good. The last character I want to talk about is arguably the best written character in Steel Ball Run, and that is no other than Diego Brando. Diego is one of the best characters. He differs a lot from Dio, and I will say that he is better than Dio in many ways in his own story. Part 7 tries something where the main antagonist is defeated, then we have something even more after that is just amazing and one of the best stuff ever. I love Dio to a very much personal level, and he is one of my favorite JoJo characters for sure. Everything from his backstory to his home motives and the way he presents himself in the part makes himself to be best boy. Part 7 is my favorite part of JoJo, arguably the best part and one of the best mangas to be ever written. Don't go with high expectations into Part 7 since a lot of people look over it. It's a matter of opinion after all, but for me Part 7 is the best. After all, it has my favorite stuff about JoJo, my favorite character, my favorite fight, my favorite stand, my favorite ending, favorite minor villain, and favorite minor arc in JoJo. Part 7 is just a masterpiece. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe, follow me, my links in the description below. That is all I had to say for the masterpiece of Part 7. And yes, I could have said way more, but let's be honest, when you love something to a personal level like Part 7, no matter what you say, you will forget something. Anyways, adinplore is signing off.
We go back, we relax, hentai in the back.